So, there's this database in my hometown of local 911 calls. I like to listen to them every so often, usually when I'm working or doing chores or whatever. They kind of satiate my morbid curiosity of what goes on around this shit town. Most times, they're just ridiculous complaints made by whiny people, noise complaints, someone lighting off fireworks, or I saw some mysterious figure entering the front door of a home. Someone entering their home in a black hoodie does not make them dangerous, Karen. Other times, they're just flat out hilarious. You have people calling in because they lost their shoes in a river, or someone's fat ass got stuck on a water slide at a pool downtown, or they report seeing a bunch of raccoons stealing food. You know, that type of ridiculous shit. However, there's a phone call that was archived years ago, about 2017, and it was weird. I'll let the call speak for itself. I found some context to go along with it. I'll include those too. This is a transcript of a 911 call from the residence of Mary, located in Iowa. The call came in at 8:43 p.m. and responders were dispatched within 58 seconds. They arrived at scene at 8:56 p.m. 911? Yeah, hello. Hello? I see something. Someone outside. Who do you see, ma'am? It's someone out there, I think. Just standing. He's been there for a long time. Help. Ma'am, can you tell me what you see? Do you have any details? Inaudible. Breathing and a slight shuffling can be heard. Ma'am, I can't quite understand you. Yeah. Sorry. I'm looking outside. He's kind of hard to see. He almost looks like a mannequin, if that makes sense. He's just standing there, not really moving. He looks naked, but it's dark. I can't really make him out. Please, just send someone over here, please. Don't worry, ma'am. We'll send someone out for you. What's your name? My name is Mary. I'm 17. I'm staying with my mom, but she's working late tonight. She won't be home until about 11. Please, send someone. Okay. Sweetie, don't worry. We already sent a couple officers to your location. They should be there soon. Please, tell them to hurry. This guy is creeping me the fuck out. Is the man doing anything aside from standing there? No, he's been there for 5 minutes now. Are the doors locked in your home? Yeah, they are. Let me double check. Sounds of moving throughout the house is heard. I'm here, hon. The police will be there soon, okay? Ma'am, are you there? Fuck! Ma'am, is everything okay? He fucking moved. Ma'am, please tell me what's happening. The guy out there just moved closer to my house. He's just standing there at my downstairs window. Help! Don't worry, sweetie. It shouldn't be much longer for the police to arrive. Are you in a closed room? Yeah, I am. I'm in my room. My door is shut. I blocked my door with my nightstand. Good. Keep away from the window. And if you have a closet, go into it until the police arrive. Alright, I can do that. Holy shit. Ma'am, are you in the closet? I can't see his face. It's like all fuzzy. His whole body is all blurry. Ma'am, please wait in a safe place until the police arrive. God damn it. I'm gonna die. I just know it. I'm gonna die. It's okay, hon. They're almost there. Wait a minute. He's gone. He's not down there anymore. Don't worry, sweetheart. The police are a block away. The lights in my house went out. It's okay. Hold tight. They're almost there. Are you okay? No, I'm looking outside. I don't see anything. Everything is dark. Is there a power outage in the neighborhood? Hold tight. Do you have any flashlights or a light on your phone that you can use? Yeah, I do. A buzzing noise can be heard for approximately 10 seconds on the feed, but the caller and dispatcher cannot be heard during this time. Do you hear that? It's so loud. Ma'am, I'm afraid I can't hear anything. It's like locusts. Oh, it's so loud. It's coming from outside. What's going on? What's going on? It's alright, sweetie. The police are there. You should be safe to come out now. I don't see any police lights. I don't see... Holy shit! Holy shit! What is it? Tell me what you see. Inaudible. A slight breathing can be heard. Ma'am, are there officers at your location? Ma'am. There's fucking more of them outside. Ma'am, can you elaborate? There's more of them. There's like 20 out there. Help me. Where are the fucking police? In a lower tone, the dispatcher is away from the microphone. What do you mean she isn't there? You don't see anything on the property? Do you have the right address? Ma'am, they're at your location. Do you see any officers? I don't see any police. I just see the fucking people outside. They're not moving or anything. They're just staring at my house. It's so fucking dark, and the buzzing is getting louder. There's so many of them. I don't know what's happening. Please help me. Please help me. Please help. Ma'am. A buzzing noise can be heard for an additional 13 minutes. However, the dispatcher denied hearing the buzzing when she was on the phone with Mary. Officers do not report any persons at the scene. Room of Mary was empty, with no trace of her or her phone where she made the call. Her mother is being questioned for any additional information about Mary's disappearance. It's kind of a running joke in my office that I always get the weirdest calls, and it's true. One of the more interesting ones was when a drunk guy who meant to call the cops was trying to file a noise complaint about his own party. While some of my calls are pretty strange, they're usually fairly tame. I've been pretty lucky because I haven't had too many disturbing or sad stories to tell from my years working as a 911 operator. If you're looking for something like that, I can point you to several of my colleagues because, unfortunately, there's no shortage of those in this industry. The call that particularly sticks in my mind is one that I had a year or two ago. I can honestly say that it was the most frightening experiences of my entire life, and I think it's going to stick with me forever. It had actually been a fairly slow afternoon that day. I know it sounds kind of insensitive, but if you're not taking the call, this job can get pretty boring. I got stuck covering my friend's evening shift, and I didn't expect things to get more interesting. I was counting down the minutes till my shift ended when a call came through my line. I put my headset on and ran through the usual script. 911, what's your emergency? I think there's someone in my house. The voice sounded like it belonged to a young child. My heart sank. Calls from children always were the worst. We were trained to get as much information from each caller as possible. This makes it easier to more fully understand the situation, as well as figure out what emergency services we need to dispatch. What's your name, sweetie? I kept my voice calm and upbeat. There's no need in scaring them any further than they undoubtedly already were. Elizabeth, she said softly. I think she might have been crying. That's a beautiful name. Mine's Amelia. Even though I didn't show it, I was beginning to get nervous. This is very important. Can you tell me what's happening right now? The line was quiet for a moment, but then Elizabeth started talking. I think someone's in my house. Where are your parents? I asked. They're not home. I'm not sure where they are. I was pretty angry when I heard this. What kind of parents leave their little girl home alone this late at night? Is there anyone else there with you? Yeah, I think they're looking for me, Elizabeth began, but her voice abruptly stopped at the very end of her sentence. Had it not been for her quiet, frightened breaths, I would have thought she, or whoever else was there, hung up. They said my name. She was definitely crying now. Where are you right now? I heard a door close. In my parents' closet. She spoke a little louder now, probably thinking the intruder wouldn't be able to hear her from in there. I hope she was right. I was glad that she knew to hide. A lot of kids freeze up in dangerous situations like this, especially if their parents or older siblings aren't there. I asked her for her address, which she gave me, but for the sake of privacy, I will only say that Elizabeth's house was in a fairly nice neighborhood in my area, and it wasn't too far from the police station, which was very helpful. Elizabeth, just focus on my voice. I need you to try to relax. I'm sending the police to your house right now. They should be there in about 5 minutes. Can you hold on until then? Even though I would usually get a little more information about the intruder, I always tend to err on the side of caution when children call 911. I'd much rather send someone to have a false alarm than risk their safety. Elizabeth did not answer my question, and it took her longer than I was comfortable with to respond. When she did, it was only one word. Listen. I heard the phone crackle as she brought it away from her ear and held it in front of her. At first I didn't hear anything, but as I focused on the background noise, I noticed a lot of whispering. I couldn't tell what they were saying, but it definitely sounded like it was coming from more than just one person. I hoped that the police would get there on time. As much as I help people with my job and as many lives as I saved, it's always so frustrating that I can't do anything myself other than wait and talk. Elizabeth's voice came out in hushed sobs. He's coming up here. Please help. The police are almost there. I need you to be quiet so he doesn't hear you. You're gonna be okay. Sweetie, I promise. She seemed to calm down a bit. Everything was quiet for a moment, save for the whispering, which was much louder now. I still didn't know what they were saying, but I was sure it was coming from multiple people. I could pick out at least 3 distinct voices. When I heard a door creak open through the phone, my heart leapt. Elizabeth screamed, and I knew that the intruders had found her. I was so scared for her, and I desperately hoped that someone would be there to help soon. Are you okay? I need you to tell me what's going on. I was trying and failing to stop my voice from cracking. I couldn't let her know that I was afraid. There's a man, Elizabeth whispered. He's got really long legs and a really big smile. My imagination was running away from me. I pictured this poor girl alone in the closet as an impossibly tall man towered over her. I heard another voice coming from somewhere in the house and someone yelling, "Police!" Thank God, I could hear Elizabeth crying as the whispers intensified. I still don't understand how she only saw one person. There had to have been more than 4. He isn't touching the floor. The line cut off. I frantically tried to re-establish the connection, but no matter how many times I tried, I was met with only silence on the other end. I would like to close this message to any parents reading this. Please, please, don't leave your young children home by themselves. I haven't heard anything about Elizabeth or her family in the years since this happened. The police only found the phone. I've been a 911 dispatcher for about 3 years now. I don't know how my life eventually led me to work in this field, but somehow it happened. As you can probably imagine, it's not the best job to have. The pay is not good at all, and it's definitely not worth the emotional roller coaster that comes with it. I cannot tell you how many sleepless nights I've had due to what I have to hear on the other line. Most of the calls aren't too bad, mostly minor domestic disputes and armed robbery reports. But on a rare occasion, I would get a disturbing call describing a murder scene or something along those lines. The calls with kids were some of the worst, but one sticks out and it happened only a few weeks ago. I live in a decently small town, so crime is not the biggest issue. But I guess that is why whenever I get a call about a murder or grisly crime, it hits worse emotionally. All calls get to me, but not as much as the serious ones do. I'm not saying only some are serious and some aren't, but you get the point. A few nights ago, I got a call about 11:30 p.m. I don't usually work overnight, but one of my coworkers was out sick, so I volunteered for a double shift, as my boss would pay me overtime if I did so. I'm just sitting at my desk, daydreaming about whatever, when I get the call. I brace myself and answer. This is what was said. 911, what's your emergency? God, please help me. Please stop her. I was caught completely off guard by the caller screaming into the phone, and immediately was put on edge. The caller was a man, as I could tell from the deepness in his voice. I already knew that it was not routine, and I immediately tried to calm him down to find out where he was, and to send police, fire, EMTs to his location. Sir, calm down. I need you to tell me where you are. 612 Yoker Street. Please send somebody. I have an intruder, and she's trying to kill me. Yoker Street was near the edge of town, so it would take the police at least 10 minutes to get there. I had to get the information from the caller to inform the traveling officers about what they would be dealing with if things escalated. Police are on their way. Are you hurt? No, but she wants to hurt me. She's destroying everything in the house, and she's screaming her fucking head off. Through the phone, I can hear muffled screams of the girl. It was now apparent that the intruder was inside the house. Is there anyone else in the house besides yourself and the intruder? No. I was alone before she broke in. Okay, I need you to listen to me carefully. Lock yourself inside a room and hide. Stay on the line with me. I'm already locked inside the bedroom and hiding under the bed. Okay, good. Tell me what happened. I don't know. I woke up and heard things rattling in the living room. I got up and investigated, and there's a girl standing there, fiddling with one of the cabinets. I tried to quickly return to my room and call for help, but as soon as I moved, she noticed me. Once she saw me, she screamed so fucking loud and charged at me. I sprinted back to my room and slammed the door shut. I locked it. Is she near the room? No, I don't think so. We both then hear a loud bang, and the man gives out a fearful cry. Oh God, she's now pounding on the door. Through the phone, I could hear rhythmic thumps on wood. Now I knew the situation was becoming dire. Most intruders, if caught by the house occupants, will usually try to flee. This intruder has not left after being seen. She was now trying to kill. Please tell the police to hurry. I think she's going to break down the door. They're on their way. They'll be there soon. I prayed that they would be. Can you describe the girl for me? Yeah, I can try to. Already, I was panicking for the caller. I couldn't imagine how frightening the whole situation would be, but the description the caller gave me was bone-chilling. She looks like a child. She's not an adult. That I know for sure. She looked to be at least 7 or 8 years old. She was wearing a small skirt, and there were dark spots on it. Her hair was dark, and about shoulder length or so. Her neck was messed up. Her head was just hanging from her neck. But her eyes, oh God, her eyes were missing. There was no light. The sockets looked empty. I was becoming more and more horrified the more he described her. This was no longer your typical burglar. No little girl breaks into homes in the middle of the night with the intent to kill. This girl didn't even seem human, not by how the caller described her to me. 5 minutes had passed, and I prayed that the police would get there soon. The man was crying at this point, and he was growing more and more panicked with every passing second. Do you know why this girl could have broken into your home? I don't know. He then stopped for a few seconds before continuing. She stopped banging on the door. I listened, and there was nothing, no noise, other than the caller's panicked breaths. Okay, stay very quiet for me. Stay where you are. Okay. If it sounds like she's leaving your house, please tell me. Well, now that you mention it, this isn't my house. Wait, excuse me? He didn't even get to finish what he was going to say. As soon as he spoke, I heard a massive crash and the man yelled. I heard the ear-splitting screams of the man and the intruder. The line went dead. I sat at my desk, frozen and silent for a good few minutes. I then broke down. And one of my fellow dispatchers, who had heard my conversation while sitting at his desk, immediately came over and comforted me. I told him what just happened, and his face went white as snow. He was horrified. He must be thankful, however, that he didn't have to hear it firsthand. The police arrived a very short time later. I wanted to find out what the hell was going on as soon as I could. Thankfully, I have a friend of mine on the force who told me what she and the other officers discovered. This is what she told me when I talked to her the next day. The house had no forcible entry. No windows were broken, and the front and back door were locked and secure. She and the other officers on the scene were dumbfounded, as they couldn't figure out how the intruder got in. This either meant that the intruder was willingly let into the home, which the caller did not tell me, or the intruder was already in the house when the caller returned to the house that wasn't even his. Nevertheless, the cops were eventually able to pry open the window and get inside to check on the caller. The house was a mess. Everything from picture frames to glasses to even the refrigerator were wrecked. It was as if a demolition crew had a field day in this house. The bedroom door was blown off its hinges, the door was in pieces, and there were wooden shards everywhere. If the cops weren't already creeped out at this point, they were just beginning to be. My friend told me that a linebacker couldn't have caused that much damage to the door in one blow, let alone a little girl. She was already on edge, but it got much, much worse when she eventually found the caller. The man was found in the bathroom connected to the bedroom that he was hiding in. It was gruesome. His blood was everywhere, most of it flowing through the gaping holes in his abdomen region. Some of it, however, was on the walls in the bedroom and the ceiling. His eyes were also missing. My friend said a couple of the police officers passed out or vomited from the sheer shock after looking at the grisly atrocity that happened to the man. I was already horrified by what I had heard. The man had died a very violent death, and this intruder was still out there. But my friend then told me something that made this case more bone-chilling than it already was. While looking around the house, one of the officers found an out-of-place wall near the kitchen. The wall looked to be artificial. It was connected to another wall, but it was only about 4 feet high and seemed to serve no purpose. It was almost like a barrier to the kitchen, though there was an opening right next to it. The officers knocked on it lightly. Not only was it hollow, but when the officer knocked, a small hole opened up. He knocked very lightly, but the wall was so weak that it was enough force to actually penetrate it. He shined his flashlight inside and saw a blanket on the ground. But what caught his attention wasn't the blanket itself, rather it was the lump underneath it. He called for the other officer to come over and broke through the rest of the wall. They inspected the blanket, and one of the officers lightly brushed the blanket off the lump. What they found was almost as disturbing as a dead caller. It was a dead body of a young girl. They immediately closed off the area, and crime scene technicians came and investigated. After some time, the coroner came and took the 2 bodies to the morgue. A few days later, the rest of the details came out about the case. I was eager to hear what the coroner and the police had discovered, and my friend called me to tell me the rest of the story as soon as she found out. The caller had died from, and this is exactly the term that my friend used, blood loss from being gutted. His eyes were never found. The girl was identified as Taylor Weatherington, a 9-year-old girl who went missing a little over 2 years ago. She was missing from a local playground, and she was last seen wearing a polka dot covered skirt. I didn't think much of it until I found the missing persons poster with her picture on it. She was a cute, petite girl with black hair that ran down to her shoulders. As I was looking at her photo, I couldn't stop thinking about the skirt she was last seen in. I felt like I was missing something, and then it hit me, and I almost fainted as I remembered what the caller had told me. She's wearing a small skirt, and there's dark spots on it. Her hair was dark, about shoulder length or so. Apparently, the coroner determined that she had been dead for not that long at all. According to him, she appeared to be dead no longer than a month. While the cause of death could not be determined exactly, her neck was broken, and it wasn't post-mortem. I told my friend when I originally talked to her that the caller said it wasn't his house. She did some digging and reported back to me around the same time the rest of the details were released. The house belonged to a man named Travis Quinsley, who had recently been reported missing. He had apparently told his family that he was going on a trip to Canada, as he had a few friends that lived up there that were gonna have a guys' week. However, he did not return when he was supposed to. During this time, his family would rotate house sitting. His brother, Colby, was the caller. I know what he looked like. His photo has been shown on the news a couple times since his body was identified, alongside a missing child. He was a young man with straight strawberry blonde hair and a decent build. After talking to my friend, I looked up a picture of what Travis looked like. If he was missing, I wanted to at least have an image of his face that I could put into the back of my mind. My heart dropped when I saw the picture of him with his brother on one of the social media accounts. It was captioned, "Back with a twin." He looked exactly like Colby. I arrived at the 911 call center at about 6 a.m. to trade shifts with my friend Caden, who worked the night shift. "Oh, thank the Lord," he laughed as I walked through the door. I was just about to die. I was so tired. A lot of people in the center took the night shift because they say that's when the more interesting calls take place. Me, on the other hand, usually handle the more simpler calls, I guess you could call it, and I like my job that way. Caden took his coffee from his desk, took a sip, and walked out of the center. I sighed and put the headset on and waited. As soon as I heard the phone, I immediately picked up and answered. 911, what's your emergency? My dog's leg is stuck in the fence, and it's bleeding really bad. He sounded like he was a child, maybe 7 or 8. I don't know who to call, the kid told me, whimpering. What's your address? He told me his address and we figured everything out. Soon it was rescued, and I guess they were fine. About 30 minutes later, I got another call. I answered it like usual. 911, what's your emergency? I just heard silence. 911, I said, more angered this time. What's your emergency? The voice on the other end whispered into the phone and replied with, "Too late," and then hung up. A few seconds after the call, I got another call. All I heard was screaming, followed by a loud slicing noise, and then silence. I held my breath, hoping it was just a prank, but I don't think it was. I got on the computer trying to trace the call. Eventually I did, and figured out that it came from a secluded forest in Colorado. We got some officers to go out there and check it out. What they found was frightening. It was a single dog with all its legs chopped off, and a little boy impaled with a stick. Whenever they told me about it, I think I almost pissed my pants. When I found all this out, I thought about the earlier call, the boy and his dog. Another day passes after the incident and I'm at my house. I called in sick, which I never do, to take in everything that had happened the previous day. All my thoughts hitting me like a tsunami. I don't know if it was the same boy from the call. Who killed him? Why did the killer do this? I don't know what happened, and I still don't. A few days later, I came back to work, hoping everything was back to normal, and of course, it wasn't. I got a call as soon as I sat down and put on my headset. Of course, I answered like always. 911, what's your emergency? My baby's choking. What is your address? I could hear wailing and coughing in the background. My address is 107 Oak Boulevard. We'll be there shortly, ma'am. I informed the EMTs and they drove there immediately. I got another call about 45 minutes later. 911, what's your emergency? Too late, the man replied. Then he hung up. I traced the call yet again. It was from another force in Colorado. We had another police squad go down there, and they found something terrifying. A baby in its high chair, dead, with blood pouring out of its mouth, and other gory details along with an older woman with slit wrists. I quit my job the next day and started working somewhere else. I was scarred in my experience as a 911 dispatcher, and I want to share my stories on Reddit. Let me tell you, if you decide to be a 911 dispatcher and you're reading this, please reconsider.